Welcome to the lands of science fiction stories. I wish you a pleasant listening experience.
The oppressive darkness of space stretched infinitely beyond the small, battered warship as it drifted through the void. Captain Arkin Valen gripped the controls tightly, his brow furrowed in frustration. The hum of the engines had faltered moments ago, leaving the Aegis stranded in an unfamiliar sector, far from any recognizable star system. "Status report," Arkin barked, his deep voice cutting through the tense silence on the bridge. "Engines are offline, Captain," a young ensign replied, his hands moving swiftly across his console. "And we've lost long-range communications." Arkin's scowl deepened. They were too close to enemy territory to be disabled like this. The Mandarins had been relentless lately, their raids becoming more desperate and violent. Rumor had it they were hunting for an ancient weapon, something that could tilt the balance of power in the ongoing war. "I need answers, and I need them now," Arkin growled. "What hit us?" Before the ensign could respond, a holographic screen flickered to life on the captain's chair armrest. The AI that governed the ship's systems appeared, a sleek, feminine figure with glowing blue eyes. "Captain Valen, I've detected an anomalous energy signature nearby. It appears to be coming from a derelict vessel." Arkin glanced at the hologram. "How close?" "Close enough to investigate," the AI replied smoothly. "Though the risk is considerable." "Risk?" Arkin's interest peaked, despite the dire circumstances. "Explain." "The vessel's hull shows extensive damage, but sensors indicate that a portion of it is still operational. There are power readings inside, but they're strange. Nothing like what we've seen before." Arkin's instincts flared. Strange energy readings on a derelict ship in the middle of nowhere? This wasn't coincidence. The Mandarins had been searching for something. Could this be it? He made his decision swiftly. "Prepare a boarding party. I want to see what's inside that ship." As Arkin suited up, the hum of excitement ran through his veins. It wasn't just the possibility of salvaging ancient tech or a new weapon that excited him. There was something primal, something deeply rooted in every human, about the thrill of discovery in the unknown. He met his team at the airlock, a mix of soldiers and engineers, all armed to the teeth. At his side was Lieutenant Mira Rowe, a sharp-witted tactical officer with whom he shared an unspoken bond. Their banter usually served to lighten the mood, but today, there was only tension. "This feels off," Mira muttered, checking the charge on her plasma rifle. "We're walking into a trap. I can feel it." Arkin smirked, though his gaze remained fixed ahead. "Maybe, but it's a trap we're going to spring." The Aegis launched a small shuttle toward the derelict, the ship looming larger as they approached. Its design was alien, unlike anything in the human archives. The hull was scorched, torn apart in places, as if it had been through a war millennia ago. As they drew closer, Arkin's HUD flickered with strange readings. The energy signature was pulsing, almost like a heartbeat. The boarding party breached the airlock with ease, the ancient mechanisms creaking open. The inside of the ship was cold, deathly silent, but there was no sign of life. The walls were inscribed with alien symbols, swirling designs that seemed to shift and dance in the dim light. "What the hell is this place?" Mira whispered, her voice barely audible over the comms. Arkin didn't answer. He could feel something here, something watching them. His pulse quickened, his senses sharpening in the eerie quiet. They moved deeper into the vessel, following the energy signature toward its source. The corridors twisted and turned, disorienting and labyrinthine, but Arkin's mind remained focused. He had been in enough battlefields to trust his instincts, and right now, they were screaming at him to be ready for anything. Finally, they reached a massive chamber at the heart of the ship. In the center of the room, suspended in a stasis field, was a large, obsidian-black device. It hummed softly, emitting the strange energy signature they had been tracking. "Captain, this is it," Mira said, her eyes wide with awe. "Whatever this thing is, it's ancient." Arkin stepped closer, his gaze locked on the device. It was unlike anything he'd ever seen, yet there was something familiar about it, something that tugged at the edges of his mind. As he reached out to touch the smooth, cold surface, a sharp jolt of energy surged through his body. "Captain!" Mira shouted, rushing to his side. But Arkin didn't collapse. Instead, his mind expanded, filling with a torrent of memories and images not his own. He saw battles long forgotten, wars fought in the stars, and a race of beings who had once ruled the galaxy with unparalleled power. And then he understood. This was no ordinary weapon. This device contained the blueprint for something far greater, something hidden deep within human DNA. The Mandarins hadn't been searching for an external weapon. They had been hunting for the secret to unlocking the Supersoldier formula buried within the human genome. Arkin's body trembled as the knowledge flooded into him. His muscles ached and his skin burned, but it wasn't pain, it was power. Pure, unfiltered power. He could feel his strength increasing, his senses sharpening beyond anything he'd ever experienced. The others stared at him in shock as he rose to his feet, his eyes glowing faintly with the energy now coursing through his veins. "Captain?" Mira whispered, her voice tinged with both fear and awe. Arkin turned to face his team, a new confidence radiating from him. "We need to get this back to the ship," he said, his voice calm but commanding. "This changes everything." But as they prepared to leave, the ship around them stirred. The ancient mechanisms roared to life, and the once dormant systems began to activate. Lights flickered, alarms blared, and from the shadows, shapes began to emerge, hulking, metallic figures with glowing red eyes. The guardians of the secret had awakened. "Get ready," Arkin growled, his hand tightening around his plasma rifle. "We're not leaving without that device." And with that, the battle for humanity's greatest secret began. The metallic guardians came to life with a screeching hiss, their crimson eyes flickering as they moved with terrifying precision. Hulking figures, half machine and half organic, they seemed ancient yet alive, as though the ship had been waiting for this very moment to unleash them. "Positions!" Arkin barked, instinctively raising his plasma rifle. His mind was racing, still reeling from the surge of energy that had infused his body. His senses were sharper now, his reflexes faster. He could feel the change in every fiber of his being. Mira and the rest of the team quickly took defensive positions, their weapons trained on the advancing machines. "What the hell are these things?" Mira shouted over the comms, her voice tense. "Does it matter?" Arkin shot back, already pulling the trigger. His plasma rifle hummed as it unleashed a barrage of blue energy, slamming into one of the guardians. The energy crackled against the machine's thick armor, barely leaving a dent. "Focus fire. Aim for the joints." The team complied, but the guardians were relentless. They moved with a terrifying grace, their heavy footsteps echoing through the chamber. One of the machines charged at a soldier, its massive arm swinging like a hammer. The impact was brutal, sending the man flying across the room, his body crumpling against the wall. "Fall back!" Arkin shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. He had never seen machines like these before, nearly indestructible and programmed with one objective: protect the secret of the device. The Guardians weren't just fighting to kill, they were fighting to prevent anyone from leaving the ship alive. Arkin gritted his teeth, his mind racing. He felt the raw power coursing through him, the knowledge from the ancient device still fresh in his thoughts. He knew he was stronger now, faster, but was it enough? One of the Guardians lunged at him, its blade-like arms slicing through the air. Arkin dodged with inhuman speed, the blade narrowly missing him as it embedded into the floor. Without hesitating, he slammed his fist into the machine's exposed joint. To his surprise, the metal buckled under the force of his blow. "What the hell?" he muttered under his breath, staring at his own hand. The strength was unreal, more than any normal human could muster. "Arkin!" Myra's voice snapped him out of his thoughts. She was pinned down by another Guardian, her plasma rifle sparking uselessly as she tried to fend it off. "A little help here." Arkin didn't hesitate. He charged toward the machine, his enhanced body moving with a speed that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. With a swift motion, he grabbed the machine's arm and twisted. The Guardian's arm tore from its socket with a loud crunch, and Arkin used it like a club, smashing the machine's head until it crumpled to the ground. Mira stared at him, wide-eyed. "What the hell did that device do to you?" Later, Arkin growled, tossing the broken arm aside. "We need to get out of here now." But the ship wasn't going to let them go so easily. As the remaining guardians advanced, the walls of the chamber began to hum with energy. Strange, glowing symbols appeared, and the floor beneath them vibrated with a low, ominous hum. "We're running out of time," Arkin muttered. He turned to the device in the center of the room, the source of the power that had changed him. "Mira, we're taking that thing with us." Mira looked at him like he was insane. "You're kidding, right? We don't even know what it is. Look at what it's done already." "Exactly," Arkin interrupted. "If this thing is what the Mandarins are after, then we can't leave it behind. It's the key to everything." Before Mira could argue, the chamber shook violently. The ship was coming apart, collapsing from the inside as if it knew its purpose was at an end. Pieces of debris rained down around them, and the Guardians moved faster, more desperate. "Cover me," Arkin ordered as he sprinted toward the device. The energy pulsed through him as he touched the stasis field again, but this time, it wasn't overwhelming. It felt natural, as though the device was responding to him now. He reached for the control panel on its side, his fingers moving instinctively over the ancient symbols. "Captain, whatever you're doing, do it fast," Mira shouted, firing off another round at the approaching Guardians. The device emitted a low hum, and the stasis field began to dissipate. Arkin felt the power surge through him again, more intense this time. He gritted his teeth, fighting to maintain control. The device was enormous, and yet it began to lift, as if responding to Arkin's newfound strength. "Let's move," Arkin called out, hauling the device with him as he rushed toward the exit. The rest of the team followed, firing behind them as they sprinted through the collapsing corridors. The Guardians were relentless, but Arkin's strength gave him an edge. He slammed doors shut behind them, sealing the mechanical monsters in as they ran. By the time they reached the shuttle, the ship was barely holding together. The rumble of explosions echoed through the halls as the ancient vessel tore itself apart. "Get us out of here," Arkin ordered as they piled into the shuttle. The engines roared to life, and the craft shot away from the derelict ship, narrowly avoiding the debris as it exploded in a brilliant flash of light. As they ascended back toward the Aegis, Mira turned to Arkin, her expression a mix of awe and concern. "Captain, what the hell just happened back there?" Arkin sat back in his seat, the weight of the device still resting in his hands. His body was still buzzing with energy, his mind racing with the implications of what they had found. "We just uncovered humanity's greatest weapon," he said quietly, his gaze locked on the device. "And I have a feeling this war is about to change." The shuttle hummed as it docked with the Aegis. Outside the viewport, Arkin could see the Mandarin forces closing in, their sleek, deadly ships ready to strike. But now, Arkin knew they had a weapon of their own. The Supersoldier formula wasn't just a myth, it was real, and it was hidden in the very DNA of every human. And Arkin Vallon was about to become the key to unlocking it. The Aegis trembled under the pressure of the Mandarin fleet's assault. Explosions rocked the hull as plasma fire streaked past the ship's shields. Alarms blared throughout the bridge, and the air crackled with the tension of battle. Captain Arkin Vallon stood at the center of the chaos, his eyes focused on the tactical display that flickered with incoming data. "We can't hold much longer," Mira shouted, gripping the console. "Shields are at 20% and the Mandarin fleet is closing in. We're running out of time." Arkin's gaze shifted to the obsidian device resting in the center of the bridge. It had already changed him, enhanced him in ways that defied explanation. But he could feel there was more, something buried deep within the device, a power that went beyond individual enhancement. He knew the Mandarins were after it, knew they would stop at nothing to take it for themselves. But humanity would not fall. Not today. "Prepare for full evacuation," Arkin commanded, his voice calm despite the chaos around him. "Get everyone to the escape pods. I'll handle the rest." Myra's eyes widened. "What are you talking about? You can't take them all on alone. You're strong now, but you're not invincible." Arkin met her gaze, the weight of the moment heavy between them. "I don't have a choice. We can't let the Mandarins get this device. If they do, they'll turn it against the entire galaxy." Mira hesitated, her hand trembling on her rifle. "There has to be another way. We can." "There isn't," Arkin interrupted gently. "But I can end this. I can give us a chance. Before she could protest further, Arkin turned to the device. He placed his hand on its smooth surface, feeling the power pulsing within. The connection between him and the ancient technology was deeper now, stronger. He could sense it resonating with something inside him, something that had been dormant in the human genome for eons. This wasn't just a Supersoldier formula. It was a key to unlocking humanity's true potential. The Mandarins had known, and now, so did Arkin. He closed his eyes, allowing the device's energy to flow into him once again. It surged through his veins like a firestorm, his muscles tensing as raw power filled him. His senses expanded beyond the bridge, beyond the ship. He could feel the Mandarin fleet surrounding them, feel the energy of their weapons, their ships, their soldiers. Every detail sharpened in his mind, clear as day. "Captain," Myra's voice was barely a whisper, laced with fear and awe. "What are you doing?" Arkin opened his eyes, which now glowed faintly with the same energy coursing through the device. "I'm becoming what I need to be." He could feel his body changing, adapting to the immense power flowing through him. His muscles swelled, his mind raced with knowledge from the ancient race that had created the device. Every instinct, every ounce of training, every shred of human willpower was being amplified tenfold. He was no longer just a man. He was the embodiment of humanity's last hope. "Mira," he said softly, turning to her, "get off the ship. Take the crew and go." She looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and admiration. "You're going to die, aren't you?" Arkin smiled faintly. "Maybe, but not before I finish this." Without another word, Mira nodded, knowing there was no changing his mind. She grabbed her helmet and rushed to the evacuation bay, her footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. Alone now, Arkin turned his attention back to the tactical display. The Mandarin ships were moving in for the kill, their weapons primed to obliterate the Aegis. But they had no idea what was waiting for them. Arkin walked to the viewport, staring out at the vastness of space as the Mandarin fleet approached. He could feel the weight of their numbers, their firepower, but it didn't intimidate him. Not anymore. He reached out with his mind, connecting with the device once more. The energy surged, responding to his will, and for the first time, he truly understood. The device wasn't just a weapon. It was a conduit, a means of channeling the latent power within every human being. And now, that power was his to command. As the Mandarin ships fired, their plasma bolts streaking toward the Aegis, Arkin raised his hand. The air around him shimmered, and with a thought, he redirected the energy of the blasts. The plasma bolts curved away from the ship, spiraling harmlessly into space. The Mandarins hesitated. Their ships slowed as if realizing for the first time that something was wrong. But it was too late. Arkin's eyes burned with a fierce intensity as he extended his will further. He could feel the Mandarin ships as if they were an extension of his own body. With a single gesture, he seized control of their power systems, their weapons, their very engines. The ships groaned under the strain, their hulls cracking as Arkin's power overwhelmed them. He could feel the fear rippling through the Mandarin fleet. They had never faced anything like this before, never faced a human who could bend the very fabric of reality to his will. With a final surge of energy, Arkin unleashed everything. The Mandarin ships exploded in a brilliant cascade of light, their debris scattering across the void. The battle was over before it had even begun. Exhausted, Arkin collapsed to his knees, his body trembling from the effort. The device in his hand pulsed weakly, its power spent. He had won, but the cost had been great. His body, enhanced beyond human limits, was breaking down. He could feel the strain in every cell, every muscle. But it didn't matter. He had done what needed to be done. As the Aegis drifted through the wreckage of the Mandarin fleet, Arkin smiled to himself. He had become more than just a soldier. He had become the key to humanity's survival. And in the end, that was all that mattered. Far away, Mira watched as the Aegis floated silently among the stars, the battle won but at a great cost. She knew Arkin had sacrificed everything to save them, and her heart ached with the knowledge that he wouldn't be coming back. But his legacy would live on. Humanity's greatest weapon had been unlocked, and with it, a future where they would never again be hunted or oppressed. Captain Arkin Vallon had given them that future, and for that he would never be forgotten.